Good morning, everyone. Time has arrived. I'm going to call our council meeting to order. If you would, please rise for this pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report.
Yes, and before I get to that, I would like to introduce Tina Zachary, the new recording secretary. She's working part-time in the auditor's office. As far as the financial statement, there are a couple of numbers in red that I mentioned at the last meeting would change because we got our circuit breaker report, and circuit breaker was actually down from what we had estimated. It was around 3.2%, I believe, of the levy instead of 4, which is what we had anticipated. But miscellaneous revenue also went down slightly, so we have a new bottom line. Beginning net balance is $5,676,257. You've granted additional appropriations so far of $47,201, and we had $50 in miscellaneous expenditures since the last meeting, giving a new balance available for appropriation of $5,629,006, and you have requests before you today of $52,788. I didn't have a lot to point out on revenues. We are at 16.4% if we disregard property tax, which will be paid later. We are at 39.2%, so nothing really of concern there. And then on the fund balances, I highlighted some in pinkish red, I guess. That was just anything that was above $3 million. It was just something I was reviewing, so nothing of concern with those. Unless there are any questions, that's really all I have on the financial report.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to our treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, the account balance for the end of April was $204,843,347.37 with an interest of $676,648.43. In April, we brought in First Farmers Bank and Trust to collect property taxes for us, and they offered us an account, interest-bearing account of 3.09%. resulting in an average interest rate of 5.45%. However, the weighted average rate was 5.58%. With 33.3% of the year lapsed, the general fund received a little over $1.4 million, 59.4% of the total interest. That's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone that has public comment about any particular agenda items before us this morning? Hearing none, we'll move on to Resolution 2024-12-CL.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-12-CL.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the Resolution 2024-12-CL, the resolution of interest to purchase real estate. Doug?
Yeah, and I don't know if any of the commissioners want to speak to this. This is related to the wastewater treatment effort for Buck Creek and Colburn. Tracy's been spearheading it, but one of the components would be acquiring land for the project. The statute on acquiring land says that before the county can do it, the fiscal body has to, quote, pass a resolution to the effect that it is interested in making a purchase of specified land. So if you're interested. The language is just a little odd to me. But in any case, if you do pass this resolution, then the commissioners are still bound by the rest of the land acquisition requirements, the main piece of which is that you can't pay more than the average of two appraisals, and I think those appraisals have been done, and I think the low was 194,400 and a high of 230,000. I think there were some apple and orange components to that that might have to get worked out in terms of how a couple of things were valued, but it's generally going to be in that range if it is acquired.
Okay. Commissioner Brown.
We're certainly happy to have found land that we could potentially acquire for the project. That was kind of the last piece of the puzzle.
Can you?
Yeah, turn your mic on.
Eyeball people ought to know better. Sorry about that. So we, as Doug explained, we've had the two appraisals and everything. I think the average is $212,200 and comes out to be $10,163 per acre. It's a 20.88 acre plot in northern Tippecanoe County off of 800 North. Thank you to those of the council members that were able to come in over the last month and meet with the engineering firm that's putting the plan together. So the natural question would be what comes next, and that is we're working on hammering out the details of the final contract with the engineers to start the design work. And then obviously once we do that and that's completed, that we can get that information out to bid and hopefully get shovels in the ground sometime mid-spring or so of next year. And I'll certainly entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Is this all coming out of the ARPA money?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. This is just a simple I vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next, we have our consent agenda, which also includes the minutes from our April 9th meeting. Do I have any items that need to be removed, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 8252 for the prosecutor, additional appropriation.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the EAPIP Fund 8252 grant appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 8252 grant appropriation in the amount of $28,688. Discussion.
So Pat couldn't be here today, but he did send us a note, and this is the normal Adult Protective Services grant that they get every year, so.
Okay. Any questions or further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have the additional appropriation for the coroner.
I'll make a motion that we approve the general fund appropriation for salaries, wages, benefits, Social Security, and perf retirement in the amount of $52,788.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the additional appropriation in the total amount of $52,788 for the coroner's office. Discussion.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
It's on.
It's
Yeah.
on.
This is actually going to be for reclassification of a senior coroner and quality control manager and an additional person for that. So I'll end up with two of them. It will help us with basically work-life balance. As I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at my statistical report that I sent out yesterday, but 75% of our cases that we decline are happening after hours. 68% that we accept are happening after hours. So it's going to stop the comp time. We're going to get them classified as exempt. So they were running about close to 90 to 100 hours of comp time there for a while, and I just couldn't get it down because we just couldn't keep up. So adding another senior deputy
and a quality control manager to this position. So I'll have two, will help balance it out, eliminate the comp time, and hopefully breathe.
Okay, any questions or discussion from
No, I'll
council?
also add that, Kathy and I've worked with Carrie for a while on this, and it isn't a trend in numbers, and we've seen the reports. This has been easily a couple years in the making, if I had to be honest.
Yeah.
Would you disagree?
No, I wouldn't
Okay.
disagree. Yeah, no, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have the salary statement.
Yes, now this is, I make a motion to approve the salary statement for the senior coroner/quality control manager.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the senior coroner quality control manager salary statement in the amount of $62,964. Discussion.
That, we worked with Sadie on this and went through this, and that's what they recommended, so.
And again, as you can see in your packet, that it did come before the Personnel Committee as well as the Board of Commissioners for approval.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Grant Fund 9710 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve Behavioral Health Fund 9710 grant appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Grant Fund 9710 appropriation in the amount of $220,000. Discussion. Yes.
These are grants from the Criminal Justice Institute, which will impact our juvenile world and increase access, improve, and quicken the pace into access for kids and families.
Any questions for Rebecca? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 9711.
Make a motion, we approve Fund 9711 grant appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve Juvenile Alternative Fund 9711 appropriation in the amount of $80,000. Discussion.
Same thing from Criminal Justice Institute, will improve the number of interventions that we have in our community, specifically through day reporting.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 9712.
Make a motion, we approve Fund 9712 grant appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Juvenile Diversion Fund 9712 appropriation in the amount of $80,000.
This is a grant through the Criminal Justice Institute as well, which will provide services for youth diverted out of the juvenile justice system.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Health Department Donation Fund 4118 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Health Department Donation Fund 4118 appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Health Donation Fund 4118 appropriation in the amount of $700. Discussion.
These are earmarked donations for our massive community baby shower. One is from a bulk organization, Care Source, and then one was a personal donation with the last name on the appropriation request. They just wanted them specifically for this event, which is tomorrow.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have the Fund 4715 appropriation for the sheriff.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Inmate Medical Fund 4715 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Inmate Medical Fund 4715 appropriation in the amount of $50,000. Discussion.
This is just so we can pay our bills.
Pay the bills.
That's simple.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
What's the name brand? What's the name brand of the equipment?
Name that, oh, we're not doing the other one now. Okay.
Next, we have 41, or the Lit Economic Development Fund Appropriation 1112.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Lit Economic Development Fund 1112 appropriation in the amount of $55,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Lit Economic Development Fund Appropriation 1112 in the amount of $55,000. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is implementation fees for a new HRIS and payroll vendor. The vendor that we're looking at will be relative in cost to where we're at now. The cost will only change per employee per month. And we have found that in all actuality, it could save us money aside from the implementation fees. We could save on payroll fees. We could also do away with some current systems we're using, as that's an all-in-one option. We're still diving into what that actually is.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you. Next, we have Fund 9320 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Grant Fund 9320 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Energy Development Fund 9320 appropriation in the amount of $170,115. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We received a grant from the Indiana Office of Energy Development. The actual amount of the grant is $181,940. We received more at the last minute, so we'll be coming back for an additional appropriation of the remaining. But this is to hire a professional energy audit to assess the energy consumption in 12 of our county buildings, and then to develop an energy reduction plan.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have amendment to the ARPA spending plan.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment to the ARPA spending plan as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the amendment to the ARPA spending plan. Discussion.
All right. I think Jennifer has it on the screen, but in addition, I placed a copy in front of you. It's, I think, the only legal size document. I was talking to one of my fellow commissioners, and we were talking about the ARPA process, and he actually brought up, have you, how many times have you amended your plan? And it's like, well, we haven't, but I said, we do have to bring forth an amendment to the spending plan for the next meeting. And he said, we're on our 6th amendment to our spending plan. So we might be a little bit better along than some of the other counties. But anyway, this spreadsheet shows obviously the original plan that was approved by council. And then the items in the third column that I've highlighted in red show changes, proposed changes to that. The first one being in workforce attraction, childcare. Those were to fund Ready 1.0 initiatives. Those projects were not funded, so we can take a reduction in that. And those are the local share for those particular projects. That's going to develop childcare seats. The airport, the Purdue Airport, ironically, the groundbreaking for the new site is today at 1 o'clock. But Purdue went a different route with that particular project and did not need local funding for that, so that's been pulled. The housing development project can be reduced because of local match. Again, that's a Ready 1.0 project. The Wabash Greenway project, since we approved this plan, I have spoken about this in Commissioner FYI, but we were the lucky recipient of a $25 million federal RAISE grant. And and the local match on that was 1.4 million. So that is added into this, plus money for right-of-way and survey work for that RAISE project. The other change is going down to the project that Tracy spoke about earlier, increasing cost in the regional sewer district project. So that project increases. And then the last change is on the dam decommissioning. One of the dams that we were talking about decommissioning, we're going to do as a road project instead of as decommissioning the actual dam. So that amount has reduced as well. We are still at the total, spending amount, and you can see the amount that's been dispersed and the amount that's remaining. So we still have quite a bit to go, but I don't know of any project that's not set to meet the spending guideline for ARPA. The last two columns are not terribly important to anyone really, but to Jennifer, who is the person that has to fill out the ARPA reports. And she yells at me every time she has to do that. But basically, we can take 10 million of our ARPA proceeds as revenue loss, but all the rest of those funds have to meet federal procurement guidelines. And so those are just to help us keep those projects separated. But I will be coming forth with an appropriation of some of these additional funds at the next meeting if this is approved. But I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tom? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a salary statement for the auditor.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the salary statement for the auditor, $49,356.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the auditor's salary statement for the GIS specialist / property transfer technician. Any further discussion? Jennifer?
This position opened up recently, and I had an interested person from the current staff, but her schedule is as a regular part-time, and she wanted to maintain that schedule. We also signed a contract with Schneider for some of the GIS work, and so I think between the two, we've got it covered. So I would ask that this be retroactive to April 22nd when she started, and that it just be reduced to regular part-time.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Any committee reports for us this morning? For unfinished business? New business is our sustainability plan. So I will turn it over to the auditor.
Okay, Kevin asked me to go line by line through this, if you don't mind. Actually, I'm just going to go through a few pages and kind of give the overview of how to read it. I first want to thank and introduce Dawn Hively, another staff member that works part-time in the office, and she's been working on this off and on since last December. We had talked about it at budget hearings, and so it was a project we set out to get through. We've updated the last one was March of 21, I believe, so we've updated with 22 actuals, 23 actuals, 24 budget, and then projected 25, 26, and 27 off of the 24 budget. So just go through, if you do nothing else, reading like the overview, goals, assumptions, and recommendations, and then also looking at the cash flow charts would be kind of give you the summary version. We moved the cash flow charts to more of the front of the book so that you could get that visual up front, and then the detail is behind it. So some of the overviews, again, looking at the flow charts, how we projected out and have the history. Most of the projections, 25 through 27, use the same growth factor for each year. I'd actually like to, in the future, break that apart so that we can use a different percentage for each year. The plan includes most funds that you've seen in there before. I would like to add some funds. I'd like to get some community corrections and some health department funds in there. Notice that they're missing. Exhibit A represents the capital requests by departments. So that is what I'm calling Phase 1 of the capital improvement plan. The commissioners received requests for a 1 to 5 year forecast due May 1st. So when we get to Exhibit A, you'll see there are more requests than what I was expecting, I'm sure, for the commissioners as well, and so they need to vet through that before we try to incorporate it into any of the capital funds. Exhibit B we'll get to as well, and then there's just some historical documents, some goals listed for what the sustainability plan should be used for. Assumptions as far as revenues and expenses. So for property taxes, I held those to the 4% growth cap that we've experienced past couple of years. Circuit breakers are still estimated at 4%, even though we experienced lower than that. And then lit, we have some inklings that maybe that is increasing, so I used 5% there. Other revenues are fairly conservative with 1 to 3% growth factors. As far as expenses, I used a 3% increase per year for salaries and wages, 2% on benefits. I've included 4 new positions per year, 2 for general fund and 2 for the public safety lit. Again, the capital improvement plan, it's incorporated currently only to the extent that the commissioners already do budget some recurring and some one-time capital outlays. So those are just in there based on a factor going forward. And then as far as recommendations, of course, I'd like to maintain the minimum fund balances. I would hope that we can increase the rainy day fund to 7.5 by the end of this year, using some of the cash in the general fund. Some of the funds to monitor cash flow are assessor, sales disclosure, commissioners, EDIT, and CUMCAP. Of course, that's basically because of all the capital requests. Public safety lit, auditors ineligible deductions fund, recorder record perpetuation, sheriff 911, and probation user fees and substance abuse. A lot of these we did talk about at budget time, but they're more or less, we've shifted positions from general fund to these funds, and at some point their cash flow starts to go the other direction, and so we should either look at, obviously there's looking at cuts, but there's looking at shifts back to the general fund. And even though the general fund looks healthy right now and over the next 3 to 4 years, it's still at a declining balance to where we could see us going below our minimum in like 2028 or so. So just things to think about. And then I say to be cautious using one-time revenue streams such as the high interest earnings because the rates have not gone down for recurring purposes such as salaries. Have a couple of charts in there regarding the 2024 general fund. And then, as you can see, the cash flow charts have been updated and show the projections as well. So those are the major things I would say to look at. The rest of the plan is a lot of the details behind that. So line by line, could there be changes in the percentage of growth? Yes. I used interest earnings going down 10%, used 5% increase for utilities, just things like that. Line by line we could make some changes, but overall I felt like the bottom line for each fund represents, what we're seeing and what could be realistic. And then I want to skip to Exhibit A. which is about 5 or 6 pages from the end. So here you can see the capital, all of the capital requests. And there were some significant requests, but also a lot of smaller ones. So if you look at page 5 of that exhibit, it summarizes by department and by year what the requests are. Again, you know, the commissioners have a lot of work to do to vet through these, so it didn't make sense to add them into CUMCAP or eat it until they've done so. And then lastly, I just want to add that there is an Exhibit B that shows some juvenile detention center operating projections. About the middle of the page here, there's what the operating expenses for 2 pods versus 4 pods would look like, and then some offsetting cost savings. So David's up here and Rebecca is available, and so I think I'll just leave it at that, and if you guys wanted to add anything about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and I gave most of you the papers. Lisa, Ben, and Kevin have been helping on this. You can see the potentially new juvenile detention facility out there by close to Cary Home. We have gone through this. We are looking at the sustainability, which can work on that. This is basically, I'm showing you from Tecton what they think the total expenses and costs are going to be. We have talked to our financial advisor, and I think if this is a go, we kind of need to know what you're thinking. He ran like 3 different options on us. One is we don't use any cash and we bond everything. Another one was where we use $2.5 million worth of cash and then bond what's left. And the third option, we use $5 million worth of cash and then bond out. There's another option was we have the cash. We could just pay cash for it. But right now we're drawing interest at 5-point-some% interest on our cash, and they're estimating the bond right now be 4% or less. Plus, there'll be an option that after 7 years, if those switch, we could then go ahead and pay the bond off then sooner. So really, I would kind of like to say, yes, let's proceed. I don't know how we really need to do this, or no, let's not proceed. Rebecca, you want chit-chat over the sustainability? Because personnel is considered in this, right?
Yes.
Right. I want to make sure.
But that is not in the current plan.
It's not built into the fund level, correct?
And is the capital part in the
No.
3-year plan?
No,
Okay,
neither
thank you.
one.
As you can see from that attachment B, it's a hodgepodge of things together to make this work. That's what the juvenile system does. That's what we've done for years in terms of combining juvenile alternatives, juvenile community corrections, Cary Home. All those things really work together for our continuum of care. So we would do the same thing here, or asked to do the same thing here, that we would look at what we bring in additional revenue from Cary Home for our per diem and the youth that we serve there. We would look at what we're spending out of county for juveniles who are truly in the juvenile system. We would also look to what we're spending out of the community for kids who are in the adult system but are truly juvenile and by the new law have to be in juvenile detention facilities unless the judge finds another reason to put them in the jail. And I can tell you without the sheriff standing up here, he does not want those kids in the jail. And so looking at those opportunities really bring us to a way to fund a juvenile detention center outright without a net issue to the budget, which is the first time that's happened in a long time. So I know we've had conversations for a long, long time about the need. Our community is growing. That's not a surprise to you. The youth in our community are growing. We're seeing more offenses that result in juvenile detention for kids in the juvenile system as well as in the adult system. And so it just makes sense that we do this at this point in time if we can. But I'm happy to answer any questions about my assumptions. I assumed for staffing that it would be $2026. So these are not $24 where you're going to get a surprise in 2026 if that's the route and that's about the time that it would open. So salary and benefits were all projected with increases to reflect $2026.
And to refresh your memory, Fund 1170 is the one lit public safety, which you all agreed to put $1 million a year for bricks and mortar. If we go through the fundings that they gave us, if we spend $2.5 million worth of cash, then our payments come out to basically about $1 million a year. That's what it would be. And I think we already have like $2 million earmarked in public safety for bricks and mortar, don't we? One from last year, and we'll have one for this year. So it's not like we're raising taxes or anything else. We're going to use what we have and potentially use it wisely. And I think the smartest part is by being out by Carry Home, we save, we don't have to build a kitchen. We already have a kitchen. The sooner we can get them taken care of in the detention facility and get them moved into Carry Home becomes a win-win for all our kids. I think that's the easiest way to say it. So I don't know if Ben, Lisa, or Kevin have anything to add. Father Doug has gone through all the contracts, so we do have them all ready to go. So it's a matter of saying we do it or don't.
And I'd be happy to walk through the assumptions. The budget, the personnel and operating together. Again, we learned a lot from the intake center. We learned about we don't like surprises, so we want to put everything that we possibly can in there from the outset. Our goal and our hope would that it would come in less, that we'd have some economies of scale and economy of resources and scope by having it by Carry Home. We'd be able to share treatment. We'd be able to share trainer. There's some things that will impact the bottom line and I believe reduce this, but I wanted to put it on paper as this could be the big piece of it, right? And then the goal will always be to be under. So you could have if it's 4 pods, that's 24 beds, 6 beds to a pod, which allows us some flexibility for girls, boys, offense level, adults, or juveniles in the adult system, juveniles in the juvenile system, right? We know that day one, we are not going to open at 24 beds. So we would ramp up, we would scale up to that 24 bed. And then in order to do that, based upon current need in our own community, there would obviously be opportunity for outside communities to utilize the facility as well. That would not be our first priority. We want to help our own kids first, but that would be that opportunity. I made some initial contact with outlying counties, and the answer was resoundingly heck yes. If there was one in Tippecanoe, because there is not one in Tippecanoe now, or in the surrounding areas now, and there are facilities that are decreasing the number of kids that they take from out of counties because of need in their own community, just like we're seeing in our community, that there would be the opportunity. Again, no guarantees at this point in time. Everybody wants to see what it's looked like built in programming, but definitely the interest in utilizing a facility here.
And we estimate, what was it, $700,000 that we're currently spending on detention, hauling them, police time, all that stuff.
More than that.
Right. So that then frees up some of Bob's men and women that can do their jobs instead of transporting all over the place and such. And it'll still keep the intake facility at the sheriff's. We'll still keep that.
So let me make sure I understand. The 1 point, assuming we have only 2 pods, the 1.6 is the operating expense
And personnel.
Doesn't include the capital costs.
Correct.
And does not include what we're spending today.
Correct. We would not be spending it
So it would be
today.
an incremental, roughly $800,000.
Correct, in its purest form.
we're
But you would
still-
also have funding from the overage and revenue at Carry Home, so there, you would see those.
Okay.
You would be able to use overage from Carry Home truly for kids, which we want to happen versus being in the general fund.
And along with other potential ways, again, I recommend still your term here, not to make money off kids' backs at all, but there's, we would bill for our services the way
Yes.
we're getting billed and spending money in other communities as well. So the way I look at this, and I confirmed with Rebecca, 2 pods and even 4 pods, if and when that occurs, would essentially pay for itself. Operating, when you factor in the big picture
Correct.
of Carry Home plus the juvenile detention facility as a package deal.
Plus out of county.
Plus, yeah.
Correct.
All the things. It would essentially be a net zero ballpark for annual operating expenses, not the capital component of it.
Correct.
And
For
what we're
personnel
getting,
and operating.
And what we're getting is kids closer to home, closer to their services,
Connected.
getting services, hopefully becoming better citizens when they become adults, because they're going to become adults, and that's going to be better for the community.
Absolutely. You're getting
Okay.
treatment, you're getting assessment by people who can do the interventions in our community, figure out what kids need,
move our kids out of secure detention quicker, because we know what secure detention outcomes are, but there are kids who still have to be in secure detention for the safety of our community. But as soon as we can assess that they're safe and either move them back home with supervision or move them into Cary home for more intensive treatment, the better off everyone's going to be.
Yeah, I really like the benefits of it being a deterrent as well. And I think that this could help the kind of crime rate for juveniles to come down, because they know we do have the detention center locally. And I would like to see that we primarily use this for our in-county residents and really try to stay away from bringing in outside county usage.
We could absolutely do that. We just have to be aware that that's going to impact the
Cost.
bottom line.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and I think for the community, that would still be best thing for this, the well-being and the quality of life, is to keep it Tippecanoe County residents.
Any other?
So I really don't know what our next step is, whether you guys need to pass a resolution or just give a somewhat thumbs up, thumbs down. I mean, I know we still have to bring the contracts to the commissioners, and Tom and Tracy hopefully still support or whatever, but
Yeah, so you don't have anything actionable on the agenda today. If you guys want to, give a straw poll in your sense of things, that might, give you a way to go. I think, I remember right, when we did the fairgrounds, you're working with Greg, right? Caritas? He had us pass some kind of resolution that then let us, once the bond got issued, then sort of pay back some of the expenses. I believe that went through the council. That sort of thing would be probably the first time the rubber actually meets the road for you guys. But if you tell them, go pound sand right now, maybe they can spend their time on more productive things. But if you want them to go forward, then nothing binding, but you could give your sense of that, too.
and I think the thing we learned, we're keeping it simple. That's what we're doing. We're keeping it simple, no bells, no super whistles. We're keeping it as simple as we can. Which, the one we did 15, 16 years ago, yeah, that one wasn't simple. So,
I will add, not to kind of further discussion, but I got to go on a site visit where we assessed another juvenile facility, and what was really telling to me was the rides to and from is learning from our own juvenile probation and others I got the opportunity to ride with, and just hearing the conversations of what's happening, kind of boots on the ground, so to speak. I think it's Mariah or other juvenile probation person, but basically, when a kid gets placed somewhere else, they're on the phone for up to an hour or more trying to find a location for them. I mean, think how much time they could better utilize their services to our youth and our community by saving an hour per kid, per placement, and just going down the road. And that's not even factored into any of this.
Or the sheriff's time to drive
sheriff's
them
time
to
for
Clark
transport
County.
to and from. And again, when we keep all of our services within our community and reinvest in our own community and our youth, hopefully the future is a lot brighter down the road, and it stays out of the jail down in the future. Rebecca has shown a propensity for our own youth to really improve their situations. Not 100%, but the numbers are very, very good with the juvenile detention alternatives, JDI, all the things there. And so for me personally, as a straw poll, I am in favor of this.
Do we need to pass a motion, or do we?
No, in fact, you probably shouldn't pass a motion, but if anybody has objections, you
Yeah.
might want to.
Yeah, any expressed objections at this stage of the process?
and like I say, if you have questions, please
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Like I say, Lisa and Ben and Kevin have been there from kind of get-go, and I know Ben's been relaying a lot of stuff to most of you and such like that, so, but thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And Carrie didn't brag the other day, or when she was up here, but her remodeling's almost done, so.
Okay, anything else on the sustainability?
Well, back to that, yes. This is a big component of it, and obviously would have an impact, and so Greg, sort of challenged us to look at the cost-saving side of it as well. And so that's why why Rebecca put this together. Like I said, if you were going to do anything, I would look at those first few pages. General fund, is always a concern as far as how many new positions might we be adding, what kind of salary increase would be given for the following year. So you might spend a lot more time on the general fund, and we're asking departments this year to submit a 3-year budget projection with their forms, so that will help sort of enhance this process and get their input as well. So we'll do another version of this, but right now this is just a draft form, and welcome any feedback.
Okay. Any immediate feedback from council?
First, I want to say thank you, Jennifer, for doing this, and I'm excited to look through it, because I'm a geek. Is this going to be on the web so the public can also see
I
it?
can do that, and I'm going to send it as a PDF, because it's probably easier to look at
Okay.
as PDF, yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else related to that? Okay. Commissioner FYI.
The only thing I have is the employee appreciation rooftop celebration that's going on Thursday. Thank you to Jennifer Sadie and Yadira for hosting that committee, and there's going to be a ton of fun activities and
Perfect weather.
Perfect weather. So hope to see you all there.
Okay. Any public comment to come before us this morning? Next meeting is June 11th, and I'll take the last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.